Welcome to the Illuminate Your Essence podcast, where we cut through the distractions, programs, and stories that have created chaos in your life and discover the truth, bliss, and joy that exists beyond the external clutter and resides within. Welcome back, my friends, to Illuminate Your Essence podcast. In my studio today, I have another amazing guest. Her name is Lexi Powell, but she's also known as Tajdeep Kaur. Did I say that right today?
Yes,
Lexi?
you got it.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad. She is such a beautiful, grounded, just feel her peace and her calm nature as you're listening to this podcast. And that's what we're really going to talk about. We're going to talk about this incredible journey to this technology that has become very, very important to both. So as Adi Tajdeep and I have gone down this journey, this technology we're going to be talking about is Kundalini Yoga. Many of you have been on a journey through yoga. You've learned the beautiful unity of body, mind, and spirit through yoga. Kundalini's much different. And I didn't understand this until I had firsthand experience. So Adi Tajdeep, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your light. And thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to hear your story. How did you discover Kundalini Yoga? And maybe you can also talk about the differences, because many people will think of Hatha Yoga or Vinyasa Yoga or other more normalized, almost commercialized yogas out there. And so they may not know what Kundalini Yoga is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's interesting because the word yoga means union. And so yoga could be a whole bunch of different things. It might show up in many different ways. And there are different types of yoga for that reason. And Kundalini Yoga is known as the yoga of awareness or the mother of all yogas. It's a very deep practice. It differs from some other styles of yoga where it focuses on both the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes people are used to a type of yoga that is about relaxing and calming their system. Kundalini has that as a piece of it, and it also has a piece where we push the nervous system and we push that part of us to make it stronger, to develop that system. And Kundalini also has a certain structure. So you generally have different parts I kind of talk about it like a meeting. You have an opening, you have the main portion of the meeting, you have some deep relaxation, and then all of that is working up to the meditation. So we're getting in tune with our body, getting ready to go deep into that mind space, and then we finish off with a closing.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And how did this land in your lap? Because I know for me it did. How did you get to discover this technology in your own life?
Yeah. Well, it was a roundabout journey. And I had already been on my own healing journey for a while. And I found myself in this part of life where I was being called to help some children that come from hard places. And I became a licensed foster mom. And as we got into that, it's really intense. And I had a couple of placements, and I thought things were going to go one way and then they went a different way, which frequently happens in that situation. And I found that these placements were gone. And it was shocking to me. And I was in this moment of deep introspection. And At the same time, I had a really good friend who was helping her children who had been through some sexual abuse.
Mhm.
And as I was talking to her, sharing my experiences helping children who had come from hard places and experienced a lot of abuse, trying to help her in this place of agony, I I went home one day and I was in an emotional state.
Mm.
And this is a very special experience to me because I I don't know if you've been in that place where you are just feeling that passion and that emotion. And I cried out. I cried out to God. I cried out to the universe.
Mhm.
And I said, this isn't fair that this happens to people. And how can I help? How can I help? And I asked, is there a tool that you could show me and give me that I could help? That I could help my friend, that I could help these children, that I could help people in this situation. And it was about the time of winter solstice,
Mm.
which we're almost upon. And it's a good time to kind of put things out into the universe and set intentions for the next year. And it was that energy that I went into the new year with, and things started happening and coming to me. And I ended up working in the health recovery field
Mhm.
and learning a whole bunch of tools through that. People who had their trauma manifesting physically, um, and all different symptoms. And a lot of it coming back to early childhood trauma. And then I started learning just so many different tools. And one of the tools was Kundalini.
Yeah.
And it fell in my lap. And I just knew when I heard the invitation, Lexi, will you be interested in coming to this class? And I said yes. And I talked to my family. I said, I feel like I'm supposed to do this yoga class. And we arranged schedules so that I could do this yoga class on the certain time. And it was Kundalini Yoga, which I had never had exposure to before. And I had tried other types of yoga, but this really resonated. And it ended up being just a few weeks before some of my kids through foster care came back to me.
Mm.
And they came back to me with even deeper traumas.
Mm.
And I thought, this is why Kundalini fell in my lap. It was helping me. I noticed a difference. I noticed that I was
Yeah.
able to handle things differently. And as we went through that adventure, I noticed that it was changing the way I was able to hold that weight and hold space for other people.
Yeah.
So I was able to go in and not only support my family, but support children coming in from other situations, adults that were going through their healing journeys. And my container grew immensely at that time. Um, Eventually, um, another year or two later was when I felt the push to become a teacher,
Mhm.
and just went deeper and deeper and deeper. And um, it's amazing the difference that I've seen in myself as I've come into contact and practiced it, and what other people have noticed in me. Um, and there are many tools, and this is just another very powerful tool.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that our journeys were very, very similar in respect of how we had this tool, this technology land in our lap. We both had incredibly challenging situations appear in our life, which were, at least in my perspective, it was my right at the beginning of my health journey where my health just took a big dive. And I almost really feel like God placed this technology in my life saying, you're going to need this, sis. You're going to need this in order for you to help with your nervous system. Because a lot of my symptoms, a lot of my issues are from the trauma-based response and also the nervous system dysregulation and my limbic system just not being wired in a healthy manner anymore. And so having Kundalini Yoga appear in my life at that time gave me a tool that helped me navigate one of the toughest things I've ever gone through. And I can only imagine what that would be like for you when you gave your heart to these beautiful children. And of course, we know that the focus in foster care is to reunify. And so, but that doesn't mean it's any easier, even though you know that that is the goal. And then when they came back, you had something for yourself, for them, for others around you, and you saw a shift. I'm curious, what are the shifts that you saw in yourself? What are the shifts that people heard or responded to you and said, Adi Tajdeep, I see this. Like, what are you doing? Right? What were those things?
Well, as we've all experienced this before, our systems are set up to mirror and to empathize with other bodies. So as you spend time with someone who is maybe in active trauma, or is trying to process some things, it impacts your nervous system too.
Sure.
We go back and forth. We can end up having some of our deep down things triggered by that person in front of us. And all of a sudden, our nervous system is ramping up and we're going into fight or flight, and we tend to go back to some of our earliest reactions that we were taught. Now, our nervous system, our system is formed in the womb. So the way that we respond, a lot of it is early formation. And it's based on, what was going on when we were in utero and what was going on around us. So even if, say, for example, we were adopted right at birth, and in just a great situation or whatever, we may still have some very interesting things going on with our nervous system because it was actually formed before that birth. And it could be that there was some stress on the mother that was carrying us. It could be that that person had a certain nervous system response themselves, and we just took it on. We get that training, we get that formed, and then here we go into life. And something happens to trigger that response system in us. And we might think, well, I don't want to be triggered by this thing in front of me, but our system is already wired. And so we find ourselves in that place of like, okay, I need to fight, or I'm going to run away, or all those things. And I, of course, no different than anyone else, I had this system that was built with certain responses. And when I'm in front of someone that is having a big emotional reaction, my response is to go to that state of my nervous system and maybe to respond in the earliest ways I learned. What I noticed, and of course, as a mother, I think a lot of moms can relate to this. We tell ourselves, I'm not going to respond the way that the people in my childhood responded to me, or we have all these hopes, right?
And then reality sets in and we go, that sounds just like my mother.
Oh no, I'm saying the same things. I'm getting angry over the same things I saw my parents get angry over. There's a way to change that. And I started noticing that I was having less and less of those moments of like, oh no, okay, I've got to apologize. I reacted poorly. I did not want to say that to you. Or I was having less of those moments and more of those moments of like, oh, I recognize I'm going into this. and
Mhm.
I have more power to pull myself back away from it and step down. Or even if I didn't catch it in that moment, I started having way more awareness about it. So I
Mm.
could then analyze it and decide, okay, what do I need to work on? What can I do so I can change this? And it's just kind of like a mental slowdown.
Yeah.
Say you could rewind and pause a situation and watch it in a slower frame. And then you have that deep awareness of what all the elements were, and you can really make decisions based on
Mhm.
that. That's what I feel like it kind of does for my mind.
I love that. I
Slow
love
things
that.
down, I can analyze more, and I can affect change on a deeper level. And then the next time something comes up, I'm not reacting the same way.
Great. So you're basically finding that you're not going in your old trauma patterns of
Mm,
fight and flight as much. You're catching it or slowing it
right.
down so you have time to react. And for those of you out there, most of us have trauma responses. Many of us have our special favorite flavor that we tend to gravitate to, or a couple of them. If you're constantly doing all the time, you're probably in flight, right? You don't want to slow down, because when you slow down, you start to think about all the things and it's just too much. So you just do. Or you
Mhm,
might be in fight, like what Lexi was saying, you react, you're just hyper reactive, right? So this is
mhm,
slowing it down so you have an opportunity to think about it clearly before you say or do or react. Maybe it's
mhm.
fun and you're
Fun.
constantly worrying about everybody else and measuring their level of happiness, but you're not even ever wondering how you are happy, if you are happy. You're always just measuring everybody else. Or maybe you're freeze and you just barely get out of bed, go to work, come home and do it all over again because you just don't have it in you to do anything else. So those are some trauma responses we're talking about. And Kundalini Yoga, what Lexi has mentioned already, and she's going to continue to elaborate on this is a timely technology for today's world. How many of us are in frenzy, are fried, are overwhelmed, frustrated? Like life is just really, really overwhelming at times. And so this time frame that we are living in, most people have nervous systems that are not really highly regulated anymore. Would you agree with that, Lexi? Or
Yeah,
how do you Tajdeep?
we have a lot of fried systems. And
Yeah.
not all of it started with you either. Some of it started with your ancestors.
Yes,
And
yes.
some of it is just the lifestyle and the food that we grew up eating. There's
Yeah.
a lot of different factors.
Well, and the fact that we are the first generation that has this technology where we have massive stimuli being thrown at us all day long, right? And
Yes.
even
Yes.
even the person who brought it to America knew we were going to need this, right?
Mm.
And Yogi Bhajan, what did he
Yogi
say?
Bhajan.
Yeah.
Yogi Bhajan. So he was actually criticized for bringing it to the United States, but he felt strongly that he needed to start training teachers to
Hmm.
prepare for the future. Um, and this was back the end of the 60s that he
Hmm.
came and started training teachers. He talked about a time in the future where we would be so overloaded and our subconscious would just be full, and Kundalini helps us clear that out. And when he first brought it over, um, people weren't really ready for it.
Yeah.
But he started by teaching people. At that time, there was the whole wave of drugs and
Hmm.
people wanting to feel that feeling. And they were using different drugs at the time and chemicals. And he came to California and he said, "Hey, there's a way to feel good that doesn't have to involve chemicals. And
Hmm.
there's a way that we don't have to disconnect. We can actually clear this out and we can become better and better and better." And So he was all about helping people to get away from some of those other buffers and to actually work on the root system.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And so that's what you're finding even in your own life, is that you're less reactionary, more clear, level-headed, more peace. Isn't that what most of us are looking for? We just want to feel good again. We just want to feel more calm and peaceful. And we want to feel connection, right? Connection to ourselves, connections to others, connection to the divine. We want to feel that. And so, have you seen that this technology has led you to a closer place to getting to that objective, to that goal that a lot of us have?
Yeah. It really just gets at your core system and helps stabilize the reactions. It helps give a clearer mind, so we have less of the chatter going on incessantly, so you can make more clear decisions. For me, I'm an intuitive empath, and I feel other people's emotions deeply.
Yeah.
And for me, it's given me a bigger container to handle that, to be aware and to be an observer and to be able to make a decision on how involved I'm going to be, but to separate myself from the other emotions around me too, which is really important now, as we have a lot of people around us, high stress, fried nervous systems, and one little thing and they're set off and they're yelling and they're going off, and we're a listener, right? A lot of times we get sucked into that energy. But when you have a strong system, you have that power to kind of sit back and choose your response.
Beautiful. So I would like to dissect a little bit of this, because as individuals look into this technology, you're going to see it's a lot different than just downward dog and sun salutation poses, which are beautiful and amazing, and they link with breath work. But in Kundalini, you are going to hear that there are words that are said. Sometimes you're singing, sometimes you're chanting, sometimes you're doing physical motions repeatedly in repetition for a certain amount of time. So I'm just curious if we can kind of go through a couple of those things to demystify it. Because when I saw it for the first time, I'll be honest, I was like, oh, this is really unusual. Like, in fact, I needed 3 people to finally bring it to my attention. And I always listen to the third person, and I look up and I'm great. Okay. All right. This is something you want in my life. I get it. I'm surrendering to what I need to have in my life. But the first time I did this in the backyard with a yoga practitioner that was Kundalini Yoga certified, I remember feeling really uncomfortable, because this is unusual for our Western lifestyles to do it. So we always tune in with Kundalini. And why is that? Why are we tuning in, and why do we use words and sounds?
Yes. So there's a lot of different tools that we use. One of them is mantra. So what you're talking about is mantra, and that's the power of the sound current. And what we're doing, there's a lot of different things that are happening. As we use our tune in mantra, we are physically vibrating different areas of our body. So our tune in mantra is Ong Namo Gurudev Namo. And it's in the language of Gurumukhi. It's the language of the yogis. So it's one of those ancient languages. But basically what it is certain sounds. Certain sounds that they found vibrate certain parts of your being from the inside out. So as you vibrate that sound, you are touching on some of the points on the roof of your mouth. You've got a whole bunch of energetic points that are on the roof of your mouth, up through your nasal cavity. And then you've got a gland here and in the middle of your brain the pineal and the pituitary glands. You also have your thyroid and your parathyroid. As you're making these sounds, it's a vibrational medicine that
Mm.
you are enacting upon your own body. Um, there is also a tuning in to the universe, tuning in to the great teachers of the universe. We call them the golden chain. So you're kind of tuning into that great wisdom of the universe. You're calling upon that wisdom. You're calling on the light within you and outside of you, that power that helps to bring you from darkness into light. And some people refer to that power as God or other names. In Kundalini tradition, we refer to it as God, the gathering, organizing, and delivering power.
Mm.
So, whatever that is to
Mm.
you, you start where you're at. The gathering, organizing, and delivering power. We start our practice by calling upon that power and vibrating those sounds in our being to help turn on the parts in our brain that are going to help us to connect to ourselves and connect to that power outside of us.
Wow, that is powerful. Tell us what it means when you tune in. Om Namo Gurudev Namo.
Om Namo Gurudev Namo. So I call upon or I bow to that power, that infinite power that helps bring me from darkness into light.
Beautiful. And
Mhm.
I'm always astounded after I'm one of those individuals that's like, okay, let's just experience this and then we'll get to know exactly what it means and what it's all about, right?
Mhm.
I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I need to feel it in my body. And I'm a Cancer. I have in human design a very organized emotional center. I'm very in tune with my emotions and I'm very in tune with my body. And so I feel it. I feel it. And
Mhm.
then I go, okay, by the way, what does this mean? And then you just
Mhm.
said what it meant. I was like, oh, of course
What
that
it
feels
means.
so amazing.
Mhm. And you really do have to feel it. I can explain to you what I think it means with words that I use, but really, you have to try it to
Yes.
feel how that vibration feels in your
Yes.
body.
Yes. And when people feel it, it really is an unbelievable experience. You leave, and especially a class with other individuals where you're all sharing this kind of energetic exchange, this energetic vibration. It's really an incredible feeling when you leave that room.
Mhm.
And so you've got this tuning in. You're also, there's got to be something with your throat chakra. So many of us don't say
Mhm.
what we mean and mean what we say,
Mhm.
or we've been told to be quiet or less than what we are, right? So being able to express ourselves and make vibration and sound has got to be very healing.
Mhm. And the technology just keeps catching up with us. I mean, this is ancient technology that has been passed down for
Mhm.
thousands of years. Now we have Western science and medicine that
Mhm.
is starting to find a different way to talk about it and find the proof and show how it works.
Yeah. Isn't
Um,
that so
but
cool?
it's
And
been
I
around for
don't
a long time.
necessarily need that because I feel it and I go, I don't really
Yeah,
need the proof. But for some people who are very analytical and they're
yeah.
like, this is just a little too woo for me. But if I have proof that it works, I might try it. And that's really what I'm hoping in this episode is go try it. Go try it and get out of your head of the weirdness of it and get into your heart and feel it. Feel the power of what's been passed on through royal lineage for ages and ages and ages. And one brave man was willing to come and pass on this technology here in America. And I see people are really gravitating to this, especially right now, where our nervous systems are needing it more than we've ever needed it before. And so they're going to classes and they're learning how to reset their nervous systems, in essence,
Mhm.
come back to themselves. It's one of the technologies that I have found profound help. In fact, I never could meditate until I learned Kundalini Yoga because it helped quiet my mind enough. My nervous system was too overwhelmed for me to even consider meditation. It was too busy. The monkey mind was just all over the place. So I love that Kundalini. Like, for instance, maybe we could just even talk about this because this is one of the modalities you showed on one of the programs that I'm offering to students is the Kirtan Kriya. And you're actually doing things, right, with your voice, with your hands, with your fingers, you're touching things, you're connecting both halves of the brain, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk to us about, because Kirtan Kriya was actually the thing that helped me learn how to meditate. So for those of you out there that say, meditation makes me crazy, I want you to listen up, because I promise you, if you'll try this out, you're going to learn how to meditate. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah. So mantra is the sound. The hand positions are called mudra. Mudra.
Okay.
So that's the act of touching different parts on your hands. So it could be like this, it could be like this. There are a whole bunch of different points on our hands, and they correspond to different quadrants in our brain. And so we have different meditations. Each Kundalini session could be so different. It just depends on what your focus is on. And so some classes will include mantra and mudra, and sometimes it won't include a mudra. But what you are doing is activating different parts of the brain. And the Kirtan Kriya that you're talking about is especially powerful. And it includes a lot of different elements because it includes a mantra, it includes the mudra, it also includes the speaking volume. So when you whisper something, that activates a different part of your brain than when you're talking in a regular voice, versus when you are not talking, but you're imagining the sound in your mind. So that practice includes a lot of different elements. And for some people that have the busy mind, that is what it takes to get it to focus in and hone in and calm down. And so they've done numerous scientific studies on that particular meditation, and because it has been so powerful for so many people.
So powerful. So just for those that can't see and they're only listening, you basically are saying that mantra, sa, ta, na, ma, right? And you're touching your thumb to your pointer, then middle, ring finger, pinky. You're going over and over and over. Sa, ta, na, ma. You're singing, then you're whispering, then you're silent, and then you repeat silent, singing, or whispering, singing. And in that moment, I remember the first time I literally felt quiet in my mind for the first time in my entire life. And I remember saying, this is what it feels like to be quiet. Oh my gosh, I'm meditating. Now, I mean, obviously there's a thought there, which is fine because during meditation, you're going to have thoughts, but I was in control of that thought, right? So it wasn't just this background of rapid fire noise. It was deliberate. I'm meditating right now. I'm quiet right now. And with that, it has allowed me to develop a practice in other areas where I can sit down and be very intentional with what I'm looking and seeking. If it's an answer or clarity to something in my life, I can sit down, quiet my mind, and allow God, the divine, the savior, whatever the language is of your heart. My heart says my savior and God and mother, allow me to have clarity with that question that's in my heart. But that was not doable before I had Kundalini Yoga in my life because my nervous system was just not open. I was in binary thinking because my body thought it was going to die. And so here I was learning to relax and be in the parasympathetic again, allowing myself to be in the rest and digest area of my life. And my health conditions actually quieted as I learned to get my nervous system back into place, because it was a direct response with my body not feeling safe. So Kundalini Yoga has really shifted so many things for me. Any thoughts with that?
Yeah, the other piece of Kundalini is that you're not just jumping right into a deep meditation.
Mm-mm.
We begin by preparing and turning on the different glands in our brain. We then go into a warm up for our body, because our body is connected to our mind. It's all
Mm.
connected. So we do the asanas, the body positions. We exercise, we push energy around, and we relax. All of that comes before the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all a piece of it, preparing your mind to meditate.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they're hopping online trying to find just something to do right away, and they're finding that their mind is not ready to go there.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Sometimes we are and sometimes we aren't, but a practice like this can really help you to get there. If you ever thought, I can never meditate, maybe it was just that you were missing a piece. And this is here, it's available.
Yes. Oh, I love it so much. And I love how you describe it. One of the reasons why I wanted you to be on this episode is you say it so beautifully in such an easy and effortless way. And people can hear that. I mean, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a normal girl. Like you're not you're not over in India speaking to this. But no, you do have a head wrap, and that's
Mhm.
pretty common. So I want to know about
Mhm.
the different attire, because a lot of times you wear head wraps, and a lot of times you'll see people wear white. And so I'm just curious about that, because that is
Mhm.
something that people may want to know about.
Yeah. I'm just a regular person living my regular life, and I don't always wear a head wrap. Some people that practice yoga might have a practice where they wear a head wrap all the time. It's
Mhm.
totally a practice that's a part of many different cultures and religions.
Yeah.
Um, in Kundalini Yoga, we are taught that the head wrap is very helpful for many different reasons. It is wrapping your brain, so you get kind of a cranial adjustment as you're
Mhm.
wearing something wrapped around this area. You are also covering your crown chakra, which can be protective to you. You are also um, sometimes it is a white color that people wear, and that can be very symbolic of purity or holiness, something that we're aspiring to. There's a lot of different elements and why people would wear a head wrap during yoga, or you don't have to. It's completely up to you. But
Mm.
there's a lot of different things, and um can go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. There is something called a yogic lifestyle where people just really go all in, and they're figuring out, okay, what kinds of clothes am I wearing? What kinds of food am I wearing? How do I live my life? How do I incorporate this into everything in my life? How do I shower? There's so many pieces that can go into it that are a lifestyle
Mhm.
that you could get into with a yoga teacher, like
Mhm.
one-on-one. I'll do one-on-one sessions with people, and that's the kind of thing that we can talk about. In a regular class, you're not necessarily going to get into those teachings, but you're going to see someone that maybe wears a head wrap and wears white. And so that's kind of an idea of why they might do that. You'll also see a lot of Kundalini teachers that sit on a sheepskin
Yeah.
rug,
Yes.
and that is also very symbolic. So there's a lot of symbolism in all the things that you're seeing.
Mm. To me, after I embraced the weird, okay, because that's what I had to do. And I say that tongue in cheek, because it's really not weird once you understand and you're there. But from a Western perspective, it's different than what we're used to. And so it was
Mhm.
weird for me. Once I embraced that, actually took the class and felt the difference and felt the clarity and the clearness in my mind, felt like my brain was actually working and absorbing for one of the first times in my life, started to see my health issues started to wane and just relax more. Then I am a champion for Kundalini yoga. I feel like this is a technology that needs to be brought to the mass attention, because we are dealing with this in an epic proportion right now. They're actually saying that insomnia is an epidemic right now. So many individuals cannot sleep right now, which leads to chronic stress, which leads to chronic health issues and a disconnection from themselves and others. They're not living the life that they could in their highest and best because their nervous systems are fried. So I see that this can help so many individuals. But for someone, and that kind of leads me to my last question, where do people start? Where do they get this information? I mean, obviously you could probably Google it on YouTube or put a search on YouTube and find something. But what's the best way to get started?
Well, I would say, number one, you just have to experience it. Just tell yourself it's very hippie and it's going to be different.
Embrace your hippie. I'm all about that.
Hippie. And just give it a try. Just give it a try. A lot of people that I come into contact with, they've tried everything. So why not try this? Why not? What could it hurt? There are teachers listed on, there's like a main Kundalini website that you can find. You can find teachers all over the country. Just do a Google search for Kundalini Yoga and you'll find the 3HO website. And locally, there's a handful of teachers all over my town that teach Kundalini Yoga. Every teacher is going to be different. So if you're trying to give it a shot and your first class is just too weird for you, keep trying. Keep trying. There are teachers that teach online. There are free YouTube classes to try it out. And each teacher is going to be so different. And you can kind of go with which one fits for you. Some people are really nervous because they think that yoga clashes with their religion.
That's a conversation. Yes.
Yes. And I have to say, every yoga teacher is going to teach it differently. It can be taught religion specific, but it's not religious specific. I try to teach my classes to be open to anyone of any faith. But I am openly a person of faith, and I am a spiritual and religious person. And I do have additional spiritual practices that I practice on a regular basis. And this practice fits in with my other practices. So I just want to throw that out. If you're feeling nervous that this is going to go against my religious beliefs, maybe it won't.
Maybe it won't.
And if you're feeling nervous about that, you can talk to your local teacher or reach out to me and we can have a discussion about that.
I love that. Where do you teach? Do you teach only local? Do you ever teach online versions of your courses? How can they find you if they're just resonating with Tajdeep and they're like, I really want her to be my Kundalini teacher? How would they do that?
Yeah. Right now I'm located in Southern Utah and I teach classes locally here. I will participate in festivals and I have a Facebook page under the name Tajdeep, and there is a link to my link tree on that page. There are just ways to reach out to me and send me a message. If you want to schedule a one-on-one session, I can do that in person or through Zoom. And also any special events I list on my Linktree calendar. I
Fantastic.
also work a lot with Tree of Life Kundalini, and there is an online, uh, what did she call it? Basically online format. You can log in and access classes on there.
Mhm.
Currently, I don't have any recorded, but that is possible that I'll probably put up some up there soon. But
Wonderful.
anything I do record and post. I'll post on my Facebook page so people can
Oh,
find it.
great. We'll make
Mhm.
sure that we put links in the show notes
Perfect.
so that individuals will have access to your link tree so they can find out.
Mhm.
Oh, Tajdeep, that class by a river in the summer was so amazing. So if you're local here, she doesn't always just go in a classroom setting. She'll go out in nature as well, which
Yes.
is absolutely like the way to go. If you can experience that, then you've just heightened it to a new level. So I love how you teach your classes. You are very grounded and you're very safe to learn this practice from, this technology from. And you also say, like I said, you say it in a way that it makes sense and takes a very complex idea and makes it very simple for you to understand. And then you also know exactly what you're saying. And so I highly
Thank
encourage
you.
you to, oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. And I say that from my absolute heart. And I just wish I could take more classes from you all the time, which we'll talk afterwards about. Um, However, at the very end here, what I would like to just talk about is the one main thing, because I say this all the time in my email sign-offs on Facebook, even here, is Satnam. Let's talk about Satnam. What does that mean? And just explain that incredible word that I say it and I almost tear up. I love it so much.
Hmm. Yeah. Satnam. Satnam is kind of our closing. It's a way of parting or showing honor to someone else. Satnam means, again, in Gurumukhi, I am truth. Truth is my true identity. And to me, when I say Satnam, I'm acknowledging that part inside of me. The, the truth of who I am is something deep, deeper than the surface things going on in my life. It is something divine, it is something pure, it is something holy, and that's who I truly am. And so to me, when I say Satnam, I'm acknowledging that for myself and in turn acknowledging it for the person in front of me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Such a beautiful way to end this. And that's what Illuminate Your Essence is all about. Remembering that truth inside, remembering who you are. And every episode is literally just taking each individual by their hand and leading them back to their heart, back to their truth, back to where all the answers are, where all the love, where all the ideas and all of the peace and just tranquility is. That's where we're leading you back. So with that being said, thank you one more time,
Mm-hmm.
Tajdeep Kaur, for being
Yes.
on this show. And I would like to just say Satnam to you
So,
and those that are listening.
and may I leave you with something?
Yes.
Okay. Satnam, may you feel the truth of who you are inside. May you find the peace that you seek. May you be filled with love.
Satnam.
Satnam.
With that being said, can't wait to continue the discussion, the deep dive, and the dialogue on another episode of Illuminate Your Essence. Satnam, my friends. Thank you for listening. I invite you to continue the dialogue, the discovery, and the deep dive on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also on my website. Feel free to download your free copy of the 5 Steps to Discovering Your Inner Voice and begin your journey of discovering the truth within today.